He's now using it to show me what it's going to be like in the future. Hey, family. So listen, we want to pick it up from where we left off on last week when we initiated this mental wellness, this mental health series on where is the healing. And last week we kind of talked about stop picking at. And I kind of gave the analogy of being a older teenager who caught an infection in my finger from having a blister on it from playing the drums. And when my mom told me not to pick at the blister, not to poke at it, not to touch it, leave it alone, and it'll just go away. Silly me, couldn't handle it. Couldn't handle seeing something that looked so crazy on my finger. Couldn't stand the fact that it agitated me because here was this big bubble on my finger touching my other finger. And of course, um, I picked at it, I poked at it, I prodded on it until I busted it. And lo and behold, it got infected. Went through a series of steroids for many years, even occasionally. Now I have to do that in order to try to have some type of skin growth from that bad infection that got in that finger from me putting a dirty safety pin in it. And, my mother's anger with me and the fact that the finger got not only infected, but it got distorted. It doesn't even look the same anymore. Um, but it's fully functional. It's a fully functional finger, but it's ugly to look at. So now, 40 years later, 40 plus years later, sitting on the other side of that wound that I created, that scar that I got, and all of the damage that it done, I sit back now as an older man and I say to myself, when I see this ugliness from what has happened to me 40 plus years ago in my past, man, I never should have fooled with it. I never should have fooled with it in the first place. And oftentimes that's what caused me to think, and mind you, we're just chatting, we're just talking, we're just having a conversation, keeping it fully a buck. Not so much here to preach or to teach, man. I just want to try to help encourage somebody through some brief reflections in life and see how we can flip the script on that stuff and kind of use it to better ourselves as we move forward. But it took me seeing all of the damage. It took me seeing the ugliness of what was once just a little bump, and from a little bump to a ugly sore, from an ugly sore to a big old scab. And during the process of all of that over the years, anytime the skin would try to grow back from the infection and after being bleached significantly from all the steroids, um, I would just poke and scratch and peel away at the growing skin. Um, I don't know that I've ever let it fully scab over because the itching and the burning becomes so intense from the growth and the cracking of the skin where it's been dried out and bleached from all the years of steroids. Um, I just kept picking at it and picking at it and picking at it. Friends of mine, for real though, I know for a fact that there's been times in all of our lives when we've done exactly that. We had things that wounded us, man, and I mean wounded us to our cores. Whether it would be that, man, a relationship didn't work out right. Um, it could go back into your childhood, man. You felt like you weren't treated right. You weren't loved or taken care of the way that you should have been. Many kids from my generation and the generation just immediately following me. I'm a product of the 1960s, so like I have adult kids who are all products of the early to mid 90s, and so my generation, the generation before me, and then the generation immediately after me, um, times were changing, rules were changing, laws were changing, and that old sharecroppers mentality and the slaves, children and descendants who were immediately following the Gettysburg Address, where, listen, that's all they learned was the more I beat you is the proof that I love you. Because if I don't beat you and save you, they're going to beat you to kill you. And listen, this is a whole different time. This is a whole different society. Um, and so a lot of times in living in the real world now, you can look back at some of that stuff and say, hey, man, that was a little bit more than I deserved. And have I felt that way? Of course. But there's a whole slew of others who I've spoken with in person and online feel absolutely the same way. And so um, we will often say, man, I feel all right. I made it. I survived. And look, nothing bad happened to me. That's not usually the story. Still, bad things are going to come in life, whether it comes to us as innocent children, whether it comes to us as full grown adults. You may have got played on a job where you were the one with all the experience, all the years in, all the education, all the training, even helping others to become better, and you get skipped over. Promotion comes, you get skipped over. Raises come, and you get the lowest percentage annually. And you can be in relationships where you feel like, man, I gave it my all. I gave it my best. I gave the best years of my life. I put all my heart, all my soul, all my time, all my effort into it. It may be in a ministry that you support, a ministry that you've attended. You may feel like, man, listen, what more can I do? I pay my tithes. I don't miss services. I do whatever the leadership asks of me to do. I love helping people, but why is it that I'm not feeling fulfilled? Why am I being overlooked? And there's other people in the inner circle who can always get close and who can always have an ear. But here am I. I've got to make appointments when my need for prayer is urgent. These are all things that creates internal wounds. Yeah, it's not physical. It's not a bump. It's not a blister like I had. It's not a wound from a weapon or from being hit with a blunt object, but it's being spiritually wounded. It's being mentally wounded. And a lot of times, depending on how great the expectation was in the first place, usually determines how great of a wound it becomes. And so, if there be wounds, and there are in all of us to some degree, way, shape, form, or another, the entire objective is for it to heal. What I want to leave with you today before I go is that oftentimes there are legitimate wounds that have been caused by others. Absolutely. I'll never argue that. I agree with that 100%. We can literally go to the root of wounds and we can point to the very moment, the person, the action, the deed, and it's completely legit. It happened. You did that to me, whether they said sorry or not, whether they apologized or not, whether they embraced you and tried to resolve it or not. That's real. We don't discount that at all. Today, I wanted to just briefly cause us to at least think about what about those wounds like I have with my finger? What about those wounds you caused yourself because you fooled with something that would have worked itself out had you only left it alone. When you get older in life, trust me, because there may be young people listening to this, and I pray and I hope that there are young people listening to this because it's really going to help you. You may feel that there are things in life that has caused you to be overlooked and you needed some attention. You needed some help. But when it didn't come fast enough, you said, I got to bust a move on my own. I got to do this myself. And oftentimes, that's where we make our worst mistakes. When we say, I got to fix this myself, I got to get it popping, I got to get this cracking. I don't sit back and wait for nobody. Listen, man, that's the story of my life. Anybody that knows me, anybody that's watching this video, they can tell you that about me. Listen, I'm a worker, man. I don't wait for nobody to do nothing for me. I can be alone and do well because I've learned how to survive with help and without help. I'm like the Apostle Paul, man. Whatever state I'm in, I got grace for it. I learned how to be abased and to be abound. I learned how to be brought low and how to be promoted high. And still, don't need clappers, don't need pats on the back, don't need applause. Because guess what? At the end of the day, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I'm gonna get the job done one way or another. And so there are many of us who have that mentality. But the great mistake in that is that when you do not seek out skilled counselors, when you do not seek out skilled help, then that is when we make the mistakes and we become poor physicians. We become poor providers of ourselves because oftentimes we will take only what we have heard and only what we naturally know to try to fix a wound that we've inflicted on ourselves that a salve or an ointment or a band-aid, alcohol ain't gonna fix. Sometimes even blessed oil ain't gonna fix it because it was intended for you to see a skilled physician because that wound may be significant enough that if it's left open to itself and not to be closed surgically, it can cost you your life.